Welcome in, everybody. I'm Devon O'Day, and my friend Bill Cinque is with me. How are you, Bill?
I am well. I hope everyone out there is well as well.
You know, we might be two of the most blessed people ever.
I would count my blessings, and I would count being a friend of yours for all these years as being one of them.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Same here. You know, we both do not come from backgrounds that would lend itself to being amongst the famous, amongst those that get their dreams and play, like for you, Madison Square Garden. For me, ending up in any kind of Hall of Fame. And I mean, we come from very humble backgrounds.
To say the least, yeah.
To say the least. And when you think about it and where we came from and where we are now and the things that we've experienced, it's kind of that, people have often called me Forrest Gump because I end up in these situations but we both kind of have that. Tell a little bit about some of your background and some of the things that have catapulted you in little leapfrog steps to where you are now.
Well, essentially, just this past June, just 2 months ago, I celebrated my 65th birthday. I was born in New York City in 1958. When I was 5 years old, like a lot of the world at that time, I saw the Beatles debut on the Ed Sullivan Show. And I knew at that moment what I wanted to do my whole life. I knew I wanted to be a musician. I didn't know where that would take me. A few years later, I moved up to a place called Yonkers, New York, which, when you talk about humble beginnings, we don't have to dwell too much on it, but it was humble. I kept my eye on the ball as far as playing music. I put myself through community college, and I say that proudly because it was a great experience and adventure for me. And I've been playing music professionally since I was 19. And when you say blessed, I've had 1,000 blessings. Every single day I wake up feeling blessed that I have a purpose, I have a path, I have a goal. And I can only wish that everybody watching the show would have similar passion in their life.
That's it. Passion. I asked someone recently what their passion was, and they replied, I don't know. And if we don't know our passion by the time we're in our 60s, then we need to start examining what that might be, because I think every single day is just a gift, every single one of them. And it is not to be used on something you don't have passion for. Now, I'm not saying pay the bills. I mean, we've all paid the bills in ways and we go, yeah, that wasn't my favorite thing, but needed the money and that's what we did and whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about taking that dream from the dream spot to reality. And if you guys have a comment or anything, if you maybe have been in a situation like this, put it in the comments where you're watching this. I know we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. So if you guys have anything to offer, just leave us a message and some of your comments, but know that I'll bring the comments on the show with us as well.
When you mention passion, passion comes in a lot of shapes and sizes and flavors. And, I think the two of us have said many times, there's no dream that's too small. People think of big dreams and they think of, if I hit the lottery or if I could do this or, something that was so big. But I have friends of mine that they drive a nice car and they have a lot of the accoutrements that go with a nice lifestyle. But what really made them happy was putting a vegetable garden in the backyard.
Amen.
And to that person, driving a Jaguar is nice. No one's against that. No one's saying that you take one instead of the other. But they would get home from a hard day's work and they would walk in the house, take off their 3-piece suit, I guess, put on a pair of coveralls and their gloves, and they would kneel down in the dirt for the next 2 hours and be as happy as they could ever be. So it's not always about, how do I make more money or how do I get more famous? Sometimes it's just a matter of, what are you really passionate about, and don't be afraid to be passionate. And I think there are a lot of people that that have that kind of fear of, well, you know, what I really would love to do is just, I would love to refurbish an old car, and they make 10 excuses why they shouldn't.
Right.
Well, don't be afraid to go for it. You know, don't be afraid to follow what you really want to follow. And that sounds like a Hallmark card until you really put it into play. And that's when you start living
Right.
with passion and you start living your dream as opposed to just dreaming a dream.
And passion, and two, when people think about dreams, a lot of times people start thinking dreams are to become famous, to become rich, to become more successful.
Mhm.
But dreams, there are dreams of, I want to open a little coffee shop. I want to make my cookies that my mom made that everybody loves. And I
Mhm.
just want to have cookies and coffee and have a place where people can gather. And it's a little tiny place. That's my dream. Or
Right.
I want to have a little bookstore, or I want to sell antiques, or I want to have a workshop and do woodworking in my
Yeah.
backyard. Those are what we're talking about, and how to take it from the dreamscape and the dreaded, well, I'm too old for that now.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the practicality. And I'm going to start first with your book, because you've put a lot of the practical things into being a working musician. And without being a how-to book and without being a memoir, you kind of combine the two in this great book, The Amazing Adventures of a Marginally Successful Musician, available now on Amazon.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. Essentially, what I did was when I was looking at the idea of writing a book, I would go into a bookstore, and the only books I saw about musicians were, they were super famous, how many records they sold, and who died of a drug overdose. And it was these sordid details, and it was the lush life of making millions of dollars and flying around in private planes. And I thought, I don't know any of those people. I know 100 working musicians who are really good at what they do. They are nice people. They make a living. They drive on the right side of the road and pay their taxes.
Mhm.
You know, I would say that all the time. How come nobody ever wrote a book about that? Why would an 18-year-old ever want to be a musician if they're reading about either something so unattainable or something being tragic? And I tried to give it a real life twist. Now, in my life, a real life twist is going to have some comic relief. I don't consider myself a comedian. I just consider myself a guy who has a great sense of humor about myself. And so I wrote a book, and yes, it is somewhat of a memoir. It's a little bit of how to. It's not how to get rich and famous, because I'm not rich or famous. But I would consider myself successful in the sense that most people refer to me as the happiest person they've known for 40 years. I'm just,
Mhm.
I
That's
love my life.
successful right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love my life. It's very easy to figure out my life. I'm surrounded by Beatle memorabilia stuff here. I'm a big fan of Spider-Man. I love pizza. I have the greatest girl in the world in my life. That's about what I need. You know,
Mhm.
that's about it. And I think, like a lot of us, we look at other people and you see how they struggle and why they struggle. And it's because they don't have a passion in their life. And they maybe could have. It's right around the corner, it's right under
Yeah.
their nose, and they're not taking advantage of it.
It takes an immense amount of courage to break out of a mold of how I must do what has been laid out for me.
Mm-hmm.
I must do what is expected of me. I must create the success path that other people think is a success path.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, our biggest downfall to our dreams is everybody else's dream for us. And it's big.
Yeah, it's probably, I mean, you kind of hit it right on the head there. It's probably a lot bigger than people give it credit for.
Mhm.
The idea of people telling you, if they can manage to tell you what they want, it's usually followed by 5 reasons why they can't do it.
Mm.
You know, again, to reiterate what you said, I'm too old. I can't do that anymore. I have too many other commitments. I don't make enough money. That would take too much time. And you think, well, what are you spending your time on if it's not your passion and if it's not your dream? I think a lot of people also, they get their self-identity from what they do for a living, right?
Yeah.
And what that does is that creates that flip side of the coin, what you're not doing for a living, right? I mean,
Mhm.
you and I have been doing what we do for a long time. We're both, I guess your audience probably knows, but in addition to being a
Mhm.
radio personality, you're an author, you're a hit songwriter. I mean, you're a lot of stuff. You're not just a one-trick pony. And we know a lot of people, and well, they want to be an actor, but they're a waiter. And they identify with, oh, I'm just stuck being a waiter. Well, there's nothing wrong with being a waiter, number one. And number two, how much effort are you putting into your dream? You seem to be putting the energy into the negative side of it, why you're stuck doing a job you don't like.
I have a wonderful man that I know. He's a dear person to me, and I was asking him about what he did. We were on a songwriters round together, and I said, "I don't know you very well. What do you do?" He says, "I'm a professional waiter." And immensely changed the whole
Hmm.
synergy of that. I'm not
Right.
stuck being a waiter. He goes, "Yes, I put 2 kids through college. I support my lifestyle, whatever. I'm a professional waiter at a very nice restaurant." He told me the name of the restaurant. And my esteem for him just, I mean, it was already high, but I mean,
Yeah.
I go, I love that, because how we perceive ourselves is how we talk about ourselves, and how we talk about ourselves is how other people will see us. Yes, I chose this. Someone asked me recently, they said, "Well, we want to give you a chance to sing on this show because we don't want them to think that we want you to think we just ask you to come host it." And I said, "Oh, whoa, back that up." I said, "Singing is fine." And it's, but I really love being a professional announcer.
Hmm.
I love being a professional host. That's what I love. That's one of my dreams. My
Sure.
dream, I used to record commercials in between the songs on the radio so I could sound like the people doing the commercials. I used to practice doing commercials when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
Before I could read, I would do commercials in the mirror. That was my favorite thing to do as a plaything. So for someone to say, okay, let's take away that thing that you're really good at, and let's put you in something else, because who would want to be an announcer when you could be a singer?
Right.
Me.
Exactly. Well, I think one of the reasons you're so qualified to do a show like this is because your audience should also know you're a wonderful singer, and I know that firsthand because I have actually
Mhm.
shared the stage with you on many
Oh,
occasions.
thank
So,
you.
for those of you who think that she's just taking the easy way out, trust me, Devon O'Day is more than qualified to be a singer. Yeah,
Thank you.
well, that's people imposing their values on you,
Hmm.
right? Because they want you, because a singer in somebody's mind is bigger than an announcer. I don't know who made that determination. It wasn't me. You know?
Yeah, and certainly they had never watched Ed Sullivan or Johnny Carson or I
Yeah.
mean, it's so funny. I always said Ed McMahon had the greatest job in the world.
Hmm.
The greatest job in the world.
Exactly. Exactly. And just the idea of this show, kind of bringing these questions to the forefront. It's not
Mhm.
that we have all the answers. It's just that when you said people have to maybe examine their life a little bit.
Mhm.
Well, I think I'm paraphrasing, but the unexamined life is not a life worth living. You're
Mhm.
supposed to take stock. There are plenty of people who have a job that is whatever it is. You're a truck
Mhm.
driver, you're a plumber, you're an accountant. But that doesn't necessarily define those people, because that guy walks in the door and his 2 5-year-old twins jump up in his arms. Well, it doesn't matter what he did from 9 to 5. He's a dad, he's a role model, he's there. I don't think he wants to be anyplace else.
Mhm.
And with that comes the dirty diapers and putting the kid through school and dropping him off and all the headaches and all the stuff that goes with it. You wouldn't want to be anyplace else. That's where you see somebody's passion.
Mhm.
And so, again, when we talk about the premise of this show, because this is our introductory show, by the way, this is our, this is our debut. The passion and the dream is not necessarily tied to fame and fortune. And that, I think, is where most people go wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to Perry. Hi, Perry. Glad to have you today. Perry is a poet. Perry lives in North Dakota, and it's freezing cold there, except for maybe one day a year. And but he writes beautiful poetry. And I always think that there are things in our lives that somehow, here's the other thing, is that having other people know what your dream is and wrapping around your dream is different than doing your dream. Doing your dream, I love how Perry writes his poetry, whether or not he's published. His value is not whether he's published or whether he is read in the New Yorker or the Reader's Digest. His dream is, I'm a poet. That's what I do. And see, I love that.
Yeah. I mean, I will tell you, when you were telling the story before about the professional waiter, my first thought was, I want to eat at that restaurant tomorrow. I want to go there. I want this guy, because if I'm going to a restaurant, that's the guy I want. Right.
That's the guy you want. Absolutely, it is.
So we mentioned Perry, who was the first person to, I guess, one of the first people to write in on our very first show. I'm already interested in hearing and reading his poetry.
Well, as a matter of fact, he just added one.
Oh, okay.
And so it's in our comments, and you'll be able to read that. And I'll start it. Some new doors are open while others must close. Windows go up and down, but mouths I don't suppose. Up from the ground new life arose, but sunken are ships that got too close. Loose lips are like those unseen rocks where ships are sunk. Someone cleaned their clocks. When spewing from some mouths like filthy socks, words have defiled and someone placed on rusty locks. Words spoken cannot be taken back. When spoken words too often attack. And you can find the rest of his poems. He's actually added some more. He's wonderful. And I love Perry because he shares his poetry in the comments of the shows, and people get to experience them like that because we have social media. Yeah. That's another thing. That is a tool to our dream. Social media has gotten a bad rap because so much bad happens there. But it's also a tool for every dream, whether it's launching a new idea, a new show, whether it's launching a new business. It gives you an opportunity to develop your own audience.
Yeah, I think social media is the definitive double-edged sword, right? You know, it's the same knife you could use to prepare a gourmet meal is the same knife you could stab somebody in the back. And do you blame the knife for either one? No. Social media is a tool. It's how we use it. I guess our good friend Perry knows right now. He just he's got eyeballs on his poetry. And which brings us to if you're talking about, as we are talking about, passion and dreams, intention and intent. If your intention is to spread your poetic thoughts, social media is fantastic. If your intention is to show the family photo of your grandmother's 90th birthday party, that's spreading love and joy and peace and all that stuff. If your intention is to spread negativity, well, it's the same conduit, and that's unfortunate. But so it's your intention is always a big part of it. And when you set your intentions, that sometimes sounds like this otherworldly thing, but no, your intention, you can walk out the door with good intentions and spread a little joy. That's not that hard to do. It's not that hard to do.
Well, as Perry says, you guys are amazing. I'm an open book. Thank you, Perry. We're glad that you're here, Perry. And wherever you are, you can follow, subscribe, and share. This show is going to be on Tuesdays here in the noon hour. It's got 30 minutes real quick. We got about 10 minutes left on the show, but we want you to have your questions. You can just put them in the comments. And after, you can share the show. Dreamcasters is what we're doing. And we're really promoting the thought of some tools that you can use. Okay. one of the detriments to a dream is the I don't know factor. I would love to have a podcast, but I don't know how. I would love to write a book, but I don't know how.
Mhm.
I would love to start a garden, but I don't know how. I don't care what it is. There's always the I don't know how factor. Now, I love that you mentioned community college. I love that you mentioned community college because I would venture to say wherever anyone is, there is a community college. There is a college extension office with
Mhm.
classes. There is a public library with classes. Heck, there's even a hardware store like a Home Depot or a Lowe's with classes that are normally free, even if it's a how to thing. There's probably someone in your neighborhood that is good at what you want to do. And you could probably say, could I learn from you? People love to impart wisdom. What about you? What is there? Are there things in your life that I don't know how has interfered with you being able to complete a dream?
And me personally,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And it actually came up recently, um, a year ago. As a matter of fact, my prior birthday, my 64th birthday, I spent the night in the hospital because I ruptured a disc. The most painful experience of my life. Well, here's what happens. I thankfully avoided surgery. I went to some physical therapy, and then I asked around and I said, would yoga be good for this? They said yoga would be perfect. Now, yoga is one of those things, I never really looked into it. I heard about it. I knew about it. Obviously, everybody I know took yoga. I don't know if it was I was too embarrassed because I do have an ego. I didn't want to be in there with someone who was either much older or much younger, and either the younger people can do all this stuff, or maybe even worse, the people much older than me can do that stuff and I can't even touch my toes. Going to a yoga class was the absolute let go of your ego. And I went into my first yoga class and said, okay, you're going to start naming poses. I don't even know what they are. Well, as is the case with yoga, everybody there is like-minded. Nobody cares that you can't do it. You just do what you can. And I wound up going to yoga for months, and it was the greatest thing. I laughed at myself, and it was okay. I had the most supportive bunch of people. The instructors, everybody's high-fiving me because they knew it was my first time. Even after 6 weeks, it wasn't about getting better. It wasn't about, hey, look at me. It was just the opposite. It was, I don't care what this looks like. I'm getting a little better. I'm getting a little healthier. I'm getting a little stronger. It was absolutely transformational. Now, for someone to look at me from the outside, well, I guess I lost a couple of pounds maybe, and maybe I was standing up straighter. But it did as much for my ego and my mindset as it did for my body. And so when I would look at people and I would say, hey, there's this thing called yoga. I know you've heard about it, and I know you probably would help you and you would probably enjoy it. But you're just going to have to walk through the door and do it. You're going to have to kick off your shoes and just get in. And it was the greatest thing I've ever done. Hardest thing I've ever done, but the greatest thing I've ever done.
Speaking of ego, it was really hard because I had so much pain, and I started going to an amazing chiropractor from the Gill Center here, and she's in Franklin, Dr. Wendy Toohey, and she found 2 of my discs that were really damaged. Years of horses, years of picking up things that I shouldn't pick up in the wrong way. And I started doing some spinal decompression, but I said, I want to do some physical therapy. So I started and I'm going to call it old lady chair exercise.
I'm familiar with it. I do it.
It is amazing because while it literally hurt to bounce up and down and do so many of the things that all the young kids were doing, because if you don't have a disc in a place, if you have some, it's bone on bone in some areas, and you're going, okay, this is hard. But it's amazing how that chair exercise is moving things and helping me rebuild the structure to keep things going. that's part of a dream too, is that fountain of youth that's discovered by movement.
Yes, exactly. And just so we can keep a tight spiral on this conversation and really be targeted, these are these little things that aren't really so little thing. They're not so small.
Mhm.
It's life changing.
Mhm.
And I told myself for years that, oh, I could never do yoga. I could never be like that. I couldn't, because I'm thinking I could never bend myself like a pretzel, like some of these people do.
Mhm.
No, you don't have to. Nobody said you should. That's in my mind. That was me
Right.
imposing this ridiculous situation on myself and putting a lot of pressure. And it turned out to be I'm going to say almost life-saving, dare I say, because I know how much pain I was in 14 months ago, and I'm not in that now. And
It's amazing. I watch people all the time, and I've had friends that have done the same program that I'm doing, and then but I'm doing physical therapy with mine. It's my
mhm,
own physical therapy. I'm
right,
not going to a doctor for it. I'm literally YouTube is free, and I go, okay, my friend Teddy Savage from Planet Fitness has these really great chair exercises for seniors. And
yes,
so I go, oh, okay, well, let me do that. And I start working on it. Motion is lotion, that is for your joints,
mhm,
and the flexibility is everything. And breathing is the other part of that. And the more breath you take in, the more your brain gets oxygen, the more
mhm,
you're able to think better. It all ties in. And it's not the little things to your dream. These are all big tools and components. So we've talked about today about taking the plan into reality. It's like relook at your plan. What are you leaving beside? What do you not know that you can
mhm,
learn? And I call YouTube University my daily.
yeah.
Um, Perry says he's a grateful cancer survivor. Every day is a terrific gift. I love that, Perry. Thank you so much for your comments today. You, like Perry, can leave your comments in the comments here. If you're watching on the replay, we love that. But before we get out of here, we got 3 minutes left. I want to talk about this amazing thing that you're going to be it's a dream that you've had since probably you saw the Beatles
Oh,
when you're 6
absolutely.
years old.
Yeah, absolutely. And I should say I've done a couple of Devon's podcasts over the
Mhm.
years, and I've done whatever kind of the television show. And this is not really set dressing. This is my office. That's my base on this over here that I really do play, and that's my Beatle poster that I've had for years and years. I'm a huge Beatle fan, to say the least. I play with a lot of people that are all of that mind. Since I saw the Ed Sullivan Show in 1963 or 64, I've been absolutely fascinated with the Beatles. As it turns out, as of very recently, um, I just found out that next week I will be flying to London to record at Abbey Road Studios. For those of you that might know, Abbey Road was the studios that where the Beatles did all their recording. Now, Pink Floyd recorded there, Jerry and the Pacemakers, a lot of other people, but
Mhm.
that has been an absolute bucket list dream for me for years.
It's
And
powerful, Bill.
I don't know if this is manifestation on my part, visualization, maybe a combination of all of that, but there's a great artist from the 60s by the name of Billy J. Kramer. And Billy J. Kramer is celebrating his 80th birthday and is going to be recording.
Yeah.
And he invited me to play bass and sing on his new record, which will be co-produced by none other than my great friend Lawrence Juber, who you might know being the guitar player from Wings. So, and then the drummer on the session is going to be Steve Holley, who was the drummer from Wings. So for me to be in Abbey Road Studios with two members of Wings, and then my great buddy Jeff Allen Ross, who was with Badfinger for a while, who I've been playing with for years, these are like my best friends, the consummate musicians in the house that the Beatles built. And it's a dream come true on 5 different levels. And I need to say that at 65 years old, because those folks out there that we have been, kind of addressing where you think you're too old or it might be too late or you might not have the energy, trust me, this is a dream come true. And there's one right around the corner for every one of you. And I'm positive of that. I'm not just saying that.
It
This for me
absolutely
is
is.
it. Yeah.
Jeff joins us. I'm catching bits of this and look forward to the replay. Interesting things to consider here. Thank you both.
Oh,
I
thank
love
you,
it.
Jeff.
I love it. And Perry says Abbey Road would be awe-inspiring for any poet.
Oh my goodness, I've visited there, but now I'm going to
Mhm.
be working there, and that's going to be. I'm going to have that. I'm going to have the moment where I will very likely excuse myself and walk outside and, you know, just say thank you to the universe.
Mhm. Yeah, it's those moments that we have. Bill is not only a consummate musician, been part of Neil Diamond's band for years and traveled with him and part of that. But you can find also all of the information in his book that's available to Amazon. But it's also, I love, now here's my deal, is I love that you have it in audiobook.
I do. It's available on my website, among other
Mhm.
places, at billcinque.com. And I am very, very proud to have the audiobook because the audiobook is an extension of the printed book with a lot more information, including my
Mhm.
time with the great Neil Diamond, who remains a great friend and to me one of the greatest talents in the world. And so I was very pleased to have a lot more information in the audiobook than is in the print book.
Mhm.
So I would love it. Come visit the website at billcinque.com and take a look. I would love to see you there.
And before we get out of here too, Bill, talking about things that you don't know, Bill has always had a gift. He's been the confidant, he's been the confessor, the person that everybody in the business, and as we start doing these shows, we'll unpack some of his incredible career and some of the people that have been connected to him. But you also had this gift of people coming to you for advice and for help and for moving. And so you went back to school during COVID, during that time,
Yes,
and you got certified as a hypnotherapist.
that is correct.
Can we touch on that? Because that's a real part of
We certainly
dreamcasting.
can. Yeah, we certainly can. Again, some of this might be repetition, but I'm hoping it sticks.
Mhm.
I got to that point where I was in my 60s and the world shuts down. What do I do now? I can't go out and play music. I didn't. I couldn't sit there and just do nothing. And I decided to look into hypnotism not
Mhm.
as an entertainment, not stage hypnotism where you do bachelorette parties and that kind of stuff, uh,
Yeah.
as a therapy. I got into it. I was absolutely immersed in it from the very first class. Um, I was absolutely, I just gravitated towards it and I haven't let it go. And my basic premise was this: I spent so much of my time playing to hundreds and sometimes thousands of people
Mhm.
and kind of getting into their vibe and
Right.
communicating with an audience. And I thought, now what if I can take that and shrink it down to one on one? Could I really be on the same page with you on every level, including the subconscious level, which is where we operate as hypnotists? It's really not as spooky as some people make it sound. It's very one on one, it's very natural. And uh, I will say I've been able to do that and I've been happy to do it. And I love what I do. And when I'm not playing music, I'm doing hypnosis sessions. And
Well,
anybody listening, come on, give me a call.
okay, billsimk.com. Do you have a link to your hypnosis site or?
There is, yes. It's actually, you can find one through the other. There's billcinquehypnotist.com. The shorthand is bchypno.com. But I'm easy to find in both realms, both music and hypnotism.
Well, Jan Winders is joining us, and Perry says, "If only I could be friends with Bill Cinque." Well, you can,
Well,
and
you are
that's
now.
you are now. If you're part of our deal, part of our fam, and
Absolutely.
you guys, we're gonna cut things off now because we want to keep it time uh, conducive to your time. And we thank you for the time that you spent with us. Follow, subscribe, and share. If you don't follow Bill's pages, you can go to Bill Cinque on Facebook. And we're going to have this every week. And I thought it was going to be on because I got days messed up. I promoted it yesterday and said, oh, we're going to be here every Monday. No, we're going to be here on Tuesdays at noon. So
And that's Tuesdays at 10 West Coast.
that's right. Because you own the West Coast.
I'm
And
out here in Los Angeles. Yeah.
and we have all the times because this is what social media does. And so you guys be part of what we do. Thank you guys for being here. And If you have anything that you want to send as a future question or whatever, devonoday@gmail.com. It's really, really easy to send a question. And Dreamcasters, we're going to give you tools each week to help you find your dreams. How about that?